Hello guys, and welcome to another How to Master Daily AC. In this video I'm going to show you the combo of the Suzuka circuit, and we are using these JGTC cars as you can see from the specific car list here. So I'm going to quickly go through the ratings now. So it's 10 laps, 60 car grid, this is day C, and it's ×1 fuel, ×1 tyre wear. So not much to worry about in terms of fuel saving and tyre wear, etc. Now we've only got the racing hard, the intermediates, and the wet tyres, which will actually be useful because this race has dynamic weather. So when I say dynamic weather, I mean the weather is completely random. So the race could start wet, it could start dry, it could rain halfway through the race, it could stop raining halfway through the race, etc. Obviously, no nitrous or anything. These cars, some of these cars are exactly the same. They've just got different liveries, but I'll go through that in a second. DR's on, SR's on, light damage, and you do have to make a pit stop, which I personally disagree with, but you do have to make a pit stop within the 10 laps. In most circumstances, you'll probably just pit and not change tyres, but there are one or two scenarios where you will need to change tyres. Chokeout penalty, of course. Pitting penalty, of course, is on, and obviously contact penalty is also on. So let me just go through this car list quickly. So as you can see, there's the R32, there's the Porsche Carrera, there's the Lamborghini Diablo, there's the Ferrari F40, there is the two Nissan GTRs, GT500s from 1999. There is three of these NSX 2000s. There is there's three of these Supras. There is one of those Group 3 McLaren F1s, and there's one of the Group 2 McLaren F1s. I'm going to very quickly talk about each car, at least from the last time I did this race. So the last time we had this race was the Nations race we had, but I'm going to talk about the first time we had this race, about a good few months ago now. So I'm going to quickly talk about each car. So the R32 is probably the quickest car on the straight, at least in terms of acceleration. It doesn't have great brakes and it doesn't have good handling, but it's very quick in the brakes and it's four-wheel drive, so it's probably slightly easier to drive in the rain. However, you have to be extremely precise on your steering and throttle inputs and timing to get the performance out of this car. I believe it's about an 80% short shifter from memory as well. Carrera, similar shift points, about 80%, but since it's got a lot of weight in the rear, if you have a little snap in that and you're trying to correct it, it is very easy to lose it and not be able to catch it, especially through 130R. However, this car is quite good on the straights, not the best on straights, so like it's slower than the Diablo, it's slower than the R32, but I'd say it's probably the third quickest on the straights, at least from memory. Like I said, it's about 80% shift. And it will have good traction in the rain since it's got a lot of weight in the rear, and it's got okay handling as well, but I don't think it's got great brakes. Diablo, one of the quickest on straights, has okay handling, but compared to the R32, the Porsche F40, it's got pretty good handling. And I'd argue, in fact, it's not an argument, it is the best car for this race because it's got very good straight line speed, it's got good traction, or at least decent traction. It's got okay handling, it's got okay brakes, it's got okay everything at least, but it's very quick on the straight, so you can't really overtake it unless you're in the R32 or in another Diablo. And it's got good traction in the rain as well, because it's got quite a lot of weight in the rear, so they'll be able to put a lot of weight's on the rear tyres, so it's good out of the slow speed corners. F40, it's okay on the straights, it's got okay handling, but it does have pretty bad brakes, and there's no brake balance in this car for some reason. So I wouldn't recommend this car. I also wouldn't really recommend the Porsche, but the Porsche is not bad. You can get a result in that car. F40 is more difficult. GTR, I'd argue it's the second best car here. I'd say either the R32 or the GTR is the second best car here. In the dry race, I'd probably recommend the R32 more, just because, well, if you were to put the time in it, I would say the R32 it might not be as quick over a lap, but it is much easier to defend in that car since it's got the best acceleration, especially at the slow speed corners. And you're going to be able to overtake a lot easier in that car as well, at least compared to the GTR. But in clean air and that, I'd recommend the GTR for the R32. And it's probably easier to drive just because you are less likely to understeer off the track, etc. NSX, I think it's the best racing car just because it's got the best handling and it's got really good traction. Just because it doesn't have much power, but it's also got a lot of weight in the rear as well, similar to the Diablos, etc. So I think that is the best racing car, especially in S1. It'll just fly through the first sector compared to most other cars. So if you feel like there's a rain race coming up, just you've got the vibes or the guess, then pick NSX potentially. It's not as good in the driver just because you can't overtake in that car since it's the slowest. Actually, no, it's the second slowest on the straight. There's another slow car. But it's very easy to drive because it's not, you get very little oversteer and it doesn't really understeer too much either. So for a beginner, I would recommend this car actually, since it's easier to pick up and get more pace out of it straight away. Supra, I'd say it's between the NSX and the GTR. So I'd say it's slightly slower on straight than GTR. It might be slightly worse on faster speed corners as well for memory. But the Supra will have slightly better traction. It definitely has less wheel spin as well. So it's easy to catch slides. It's okay in the rain. It's got decent brakes, decent handling. Not the best straight line speed, not the best traction, but not bad traction at the same time. Which are used to the Group 3 McLaren F1. Okay brakes, decent acceleration, okay handling. It'd be good in the rain as well because it's got good traction. Doesn't have much wheel spin. That's all we've got to say about that. And probably one of the least, unfortunately. I love this car, but it's a Group 2 McLaren F1. As you can see, it's only got 380 horsepower, so it will be extremely slow on the straight. But it does have amazing handling. Probably has similar to Group 2 sort of downforce. Well, not quite Group 2 downforce, but like it'll have the similar downforce to how it would be in Group 2, since it's based off a Group 2 car. So I'd say that car is very good if it was a rain race, but in a dry race, I think it's the worst car on here. But now I'm going to show you, first of all, the race that I'm going to show you, which has a couple laps in the dry, and majority of it is like half wet, and there's 1 or 2 laps where it's really wet. So I can show you those laps. So stay tuned. Okay guys, so now I'm going to show you a race from earlier in the day, from the back of the grid. So I'm in the Diablo in the Meta car. The reason I'm doing that is just because I didn't do many races of this, and I just wanted to get a good guide for you guys with the references for this car, which is why I did the first few races of this car. Later on, I did 1 or 2 races in different cars, but I thought it'd be best for me to show you a guide in the Diablo, since that car will be the best car for both the race and the time trial. Yes, I'm not going to be showing a time trial lap, it's because I've not done time trial, but I will show you a dry lap guide for this car and a wet lap guide for this car. Well, not lap guide, but references, I should say, for this car, at least on this track. Keep in mind, it will be different for different cars, of course, since they are all completely different to the way they drive. But as you can see on the screen, I've made a few overtakes already, thanks to people going off in turn 1, and since you may have very briefly saw about the weather radar, there was going to be raining, a lot of rain in this race, so you will see some people will be starting on the inters, and some people like me started on the slick tyres. But anyway, in case you just want to go straight to a dry lap or wet lap guide, I will leave timestamps in the pinned comment whereabouts in the video the dry lap is and the wet lap is. And yeah, hopefully if you are going to skip to that, hopefully I can help you with those. But anyway, I'm going to talk about the race now. So like I said in the intro of the video, I've talked about each cars and their strengths and weaknesses. I forgot to mention the F range for the end for cars, so like the McLarens and that, but honestly they are past 100% anyway. Basically the only thing you need to know are The R32 is a slight short shifter, I believe 80%. Porsche is around 80% as well. The F40 is around 65 to 70%. Everything else is just past 100%, I believe. Maybe except the GTR 99, where it's about 95 to 100%. Not 100% on that car, but it's around that range. And also the Honda NSX 2000, you want to rev that car as much as possible, just because the peak power in that car is extremely low. But anyway, so I'm going to talk about the race track for this one. So, like I said in the intro of the video, it's time to run tyre wear and time to fuel. So we have absolutely nothing to worry about in terms of fuel and tyre wear. What we do have to worry about though is the mandatory pit stop. We do have to make a pit stop, otherwise I believe you could get to 1 minute worth of penalties added to the end of your race time. And the pit stop is worth about 20 seconds max anyway, so just make the pit stop. So in most scenarios the race you'll see will be dry, with no weather involved. You might get tiny sprinkles of rain, but most of the time it won't affect the truck. So in that instance you can either pit early, try get out of traffic and just do your own race, or you can pit late, try and follow a faster car with their slipstream, or try and follow what they're doing, just try to stay close with them. And you can either pit like lap 8, lap 9, try and undercut them, or try and just overtake them at the end of the race. So I'd recommend that in a dry race. You can pit early, try to get out of chaos, especially if you're going from the back of the grid. Or if you're going from like the front, I would recommend just pitting late, probably lap 9. As you'll see in most dry races, you'll see people just pit at the end of lap 9, just to get their pit stop out the way at the end of the race, so they don't rejoin the truck and catch up to back markers. Well, not necessarily back markers, but people that are at the back of the grid that haven't pitted yet. You don't want to catch and waste time battling those when you could just be doing your own race from the front. That's what I'm trying to say. But as you can see in this race now, it's starting to rain heavily, so I will be going into the pits. And with this weather radar, you may think that red tyres will be the best in this scenario. However, I'm going intermediate tyres. The reason I went intermediate tyres here is because what you may not see on the radar is just after that dark green / yellow patch of rain, it's going to be class 1 rain for quite a bit of time, and I'll say this now, but it's quite a lot of dry effect. What I mean by dry effect is basically because of the way the weather moves, it moves quite quickly in this race. I believe there is different speeds of the weather radar in this race, because I had a race earlier where it rained but the weather radar was moving quite a bit slower. But either way, what I'm going to be describing to you now is, say for instance you are the Turkish guy in the race here. It is raining now, so for them that's good for them, because they're going to hit the track where they are now is not going to be a threat for them compared to me when I get to where they are now. So they're going to be gaining time on me here. If they were on Intus, I believe the leader was actually Rex here. Actually, I'm not sure if he was on Rex or Intus at this point, but he will be gaining time to me on this part of the track here because it's more wet for me than it would have been for them. But so that is the one good thing about staying out when it starts to rain. However, and this is a big however and drawback, if you see your race have a lot of rain involved, in my opinion it is best to pit lap 1 every time. The reason for this is a dry effect. So what I'm going to be describing to you now is the dry effect. So basically the car head will suffer with the most wet part of the race, of the track. So the reason for that is because the way this game works is, depending on how quickly the weather radar moves, it depends on how quickly the truck dries. So in this race, the weather radar moves relatively quickly, so because of that, the truck will dry quite quickly. So the leader will be drying the truck out for the cars behind them. So for example, if you're Super GT in this race, the leader will have a slightly wetter truck when it starts to stop raining compared to you in second place, and so on and so on and so on. So the reason you want to pit is because say for example 10 cars stay out on track, they don't pit. You come out in P11 from the lead, you in P11 will have a much drier track compared to P1, so you'll be gaining not amount of tenths and that, but seconds in one lap, just because you have like a 50% wet track compared to them that might have an 80% wet track. And that could be worth seconds, especially if you're on an intermediate tyre, since that 50% track wetness / moisture would suit the intermediate tyres a lot more compared to the front of the train / pack that might need wet tyres for that particular wetness of a track. But because you're further behind and the cars ahead of you are drying the track out, you will be going a lot faster than them. That's basically what I'm trying to describe, which is why you see me pitted lap 2, and that is another reason why I started on a slick tyre. In some cases you'll see people starting into suffer the first lap or two on the dry track and just not change tyres at the end of the race. But that is a bad strat to do, because you are basically drying the track out for everyone else, so they're going to be quicker than you, no matter how they're driving. Even if they're like a second lap so on average, they'll be going faster than you because you're drying the track out. So at this point, since the track is extremely wet, I will be using the wet lines at the moment, but don't worry, at the end of the video I'll be showing rough wet lines and rough guidance on what to do on the wet lap. And yeah, I'll be also showing a dry lap guide that you would have seen from earlier days. I'll be using one of those laps to show rough guidance on what to do on a dry lap, rough references to look for, etc. But now we are halfway through lap 4, not halfway, near the end of lap 4. I am P7, I am, I believe, second of the people that haven't pitted, or third. I don't remember if Costa's pitted. In fact, I'm pretty sure he did pit. He hasn't pitted, there you go, he's pitted, so I am second of the people that pitted. I believe Brown Banana pitted, and I believe he's on a wet tyre, which is why I gained a bit on him in the last half lap or so, especially since he was back with Costas. But you may have noticed initially he would have gained time a bit to me at the beginning of this second stint, just because he's on a full wet tyre, so he'll have more traction and more grip in full wet conditions. But now we are in the class 1 rain. That is where the intermediates will shine. The 4 cars enemy are drying the track out for me, so for me the moisture bar is about 60% wet. For Brown Banana it could be 65% wet, for the top 3 it could be above the second bar wet, just because of where they are on the track. They are drying the track out. And for me that means Consul, if he was on the intermediate sides, will gain time to me. Obviously he's in a different car, so his car might not be quite as good in the rain compared to mine. He's in the McLaren F1. Like I said in the intro, the McLaren F1 is pretty good rain car, probably just as good as Diablo, in my opinion anyway. B-Racer is, I believe, in the NSX, which is an even better rain car, only in full wet conditions, so as soon as it starts to dry out, it basically goes back to like dry performance cars in terms of domination. So you'll see the Diablos and GTR 99s do very well on like the intermediate conditions, but in the full wet conditions you'll see like the NSX and the Group 2 McLaren F1 and the Group 3 McLaren F1 will be very good in the wet conditions, just because they're more stable in general and they don't have as much power, so they don't have as much wheel spin etc. others, so to speak, ones especially. Now we are getting towards the end of lap 5, we are halfway through the race now, and I'm second of the people that have not pitted, and as you can see I'm only 7 seconds off the leader. That is how much quicker you are going compared to the leader, thanks for them drying the track out for you. Which is why, and I mean with with the biggest tip for this race I'm trying to explain is, if the race has a lot of weather, pit lap 1, get the pit stop out of the way, let the other cars dry out the track for you, so that you're going to be faster than them, so you can do your own race and you'll automatically finish the race near the front of the grid, just because you have a dry track, so you'll be doing the lap times on the drier track, so you'll be going faster than the cars ahead of you. And even if you're like one of the slower drivers out on the track, just because you're driving on a dry track, you're going to be gaining time to the cars ahead of you're going to be gaining to the cars ahead of you. So yeah, that is my biggest tip to take away from this video. If the race has a lot of weather, pit lap 1, and depending on if your race has full wet for the rest of the race, then pick for full wet tyre. If you see class 1 raining quite a bit, then I would recommend the intermediate tyres like you see on the screen now. So that's what I would recommend. So now I've already gained a second to the leader this lap, just because my track is drier. Also because I've done this race before and I kind of know how I'm driving in these sort of conditions. So the front 3 have not pitted and I've already basically gained a pit stop on them, just because I'm on a dry track. Simple side really. So, like I said, I'm in the Lamborghini Diablo. I would recommend a +5 brake balance in this car, just because you need as much rotation in this car as possible, just because it does lack a bit of handling. It is quite stable as well, but you do need to be a bit careful on exits, especially in the wet conditions, since this car has quite a bit of power and it doesn't have as much mechanical grip compared to the likes of the GTR 19 and the Suzuka Super, the Honda NSXs, etc. So the things to look out for, so one I've already described / mentioned is the wet weather. Another thing to look out for is follow the leader in a dry race. So in a dry race, try and follow the leader / faster car ahead of you, just so you're using their slipstream and you're learning off them and you are basically using their slipstream to gain time over your opponents, so that you can try beat them in the pit stop cycle, etc. But now, as you can see, I am partnered with Super GT, the GOAT, and he hasn't pitted yet. I knew I needed to get past him just to try get away from Bomb Banana, a free-racer concert, in case they were on a full wet tyre and it was to rain a lot later. So here I knew it was still wet, so I knew off the racing line would be better for traction, so I go on the outside. GTC loses a bit on the exit just because he was on the racing line and putting the power down, trying to stay ahead of me. Probably just because, not just because he wants to stay ahead of me and, you know, try to slow me down. I don't think that would be the reason. I think the reason he wants to stay ahead is just so that he wouldn't have any distractions, so he could do his own racing line, etc. and not lose time potentially having to brake earlier just to try and not hit me under braking, etc. and just see more of the track in general, since they don't have the car blocking their view. But back to the topic I was trying to describe is the things to look out for. So wet weather, keep an eye out on your weather radar and pit accordingly to what the weather's doing. So if you see a lot of rain coming, pit early, let the drivers ahead dry the track out for you. Unless the whole race was like class 4 rain and above, then just make sure you have the heavy wet tyres on and do the wet lines and try and avoid people. Do your own race basically. Use the wet lines and you'll beat people, since the wet lines are always faster than the racing line if it's full wet conditions. So look out for that, for one. Second thing to look out for is a dry race scenario. Either pit early, avoid the chaos of your own race, or pit as late as possible, follow the leader, use their section to try and either overcut or just try and get past people through the pit cycle. Use their section to basically gain you free time. I believe section gains you a few tenths on this lap, and I would hazard a guess around half a second a lap. I know from the past this combo had very powerful section, but I do genuinely believe they altered the section a bit here, because I noticed in some of the dry races I only gained just over a tenth on some straights, compared to races where I would have gained 3 tenths on a particular straight. So keep an eye out on the drivers in your lobby, see how they're driving, maybe follow them, use their section, try and overcut people. If you feel like they're holding you up and you can't overtake them, pit, try and undercut them, and do your own best race, and yeah, try and beat them just in terms of your own fast pace and try and just undercut them, etc. Or difficult on depending on the scenario you are in. Anything else to look out for? Not really, just stay on the track really, and yeah, keep it on the track is the main thing I would recommend. Don't get penalties of course, because especially if you're not in a Diablo or an R32, you'll find it extremely difficult to overtake people if they don't make a mistake. Just because they're fast on the straight, it is much easier to pass on straights on the inner corner because if they defend the inside, they have the racing room basically, the racing line, and since they're ahead and defending the inside, they can just, you know, accelerate earlier, use the whole track just to try and defend their position, and leave you not much options to, you know, try and get around you, since they have to get around you, but because they are still a car length ahead, they can dictate their position on track and try and fend off the inside etc. no matter what. So try follow the red lines I'm showing now on this particular lap I just shown, the lap 8. Try follow the red lines, or like I said earlier, I will have a wet weather guide, not guide, but I'll have a wet weather tutorial at the end of the video reference, and I will also have a dry lap reference. There's not many dry laps in this, but the first 2 laps was dry, but since the first lap was just me trying to overtake the intermediate tyres, only the second lap was kind of relevant to how to drive in the dry. So just use lap 2 as reference, but I will also show a dry lap reference. One more thing to look out for is, I believe qualifying has the same wind for time trial. I believe it's 6 o'clock wind at like 2.8 meters per second from memory, and it'll be the same temperature I believe no matter what. But in the race the wind could have completely different directions, so keep an eye out on the wind direction. So some corners, especially heavy braking corners, so like turn 1 for example in the Diablo, you may have to brake either extra more late thanks to a a headwind, or brake a lot earlier thanks to a tailwind. So keep an eye out on the wind direction and the wind speed. I believe the wind speed could go to like 5 meters per second, 6 meters per second, down to I believe like 1 meter per second, I should illustrate, sorry. So keep an eye out on the wind direction and keep an eye out on the temperature. Some races you'll feel like you're not going as you are driving just as well and you're half a second lap slower. That's even though you might have similar wind directions. That's just because there's different track temperatures. Of course, the lower the track temperature, the quicker you will be, just because you'll be quicker on the straights, probably due to how your engine's more in your optimal temp. For 1, and 2, well that's mainly, and 2 that's just a touch more grip in low temps. Probably because your tyres are again more in a better operating window in terms of tyre temps. So yeah, just keep an eye out on them. Okay, so quick recap. First thing to look out for is, of course, in the warm-ups, etc. Check the weather radar, see what the weather's doing, and then make sure you're on the right starting tyre in that scenario. 2, in a dry race, either follow a fast driver using a slipstream, follow them, try and overcut people that way, or if you're getting held up, undercut, pit early, try and get them through the pit cycle by driving your own best race and having to avoid as much battles as possible. And the third thing to look out for is when it does rain, use the wet weather lines, and only use that when it's close to the second bar for a moisture bar or above it. If so, try not use curbs as well, like especially if it starts dry. If it starts dry, use the normal racing line, don't use the wet lines at all. You might want to every now and then on a straight just to keep your tyre temps down a bit, just so you don't have too much wear if it was like half a race, 20%, for example. Last thing to look out for is the wind direction and the temperature. you may have to alter your driving and your braking references thanks to the wind direction, etc. So without further ado, I'm going to go into the dry lap guide and after that the wet lap guide, and I would like to say a huge thanks for recent support. The last video I did was a manufacturer guide for the Deep Forest race, and I got over 1,000 views in less than a day, so I'm extremely thankful for you all for the support. I'll carry on doing as many guides as possible for the ones I enjoy doing, and I would appreciate a like and a sub as well if you appreciate and enjoy and find this sort of videos helpful. But without further ado, I will now go into the dry lap guide for this race. Easy win, by the way. Love this race, a great race, but now dry lap guide, so stay tuned and thank you very much for watching this part of the video. Alright guys, so now I'm going to show you a reference lap for dry conditions in the Lamborghini Diablo. Keep in mind I am using mile an hour here, but the reason I'm using mile an hour here is because like I mentioned in the race commentary in the background, that there is conditions and there is different wind directions. So this is just a rough idea of what you want to do for braking references and throttle and things to look out for on a dry lap. As you can see on the screen, there is a touch of rain, but this is very minimal rain. That at least the majority of this lap is in a dry. Like the last sector did start to get a touch wet, but it was still dry enough that you could push. So this is a good dry reference lap either way. You will see me pit at the end of this lap, but you don't have to. I mean, this bit here anyway will be flat. So start the lap. It's a bit slidey there, so be a bit careful on your steering and be careful when you change gear from that corner as well. So first corner, depending on the wind direction and temperature as well. For example, if you had a headwind into this corner, it is probably quicker just to stay in 4th gear. I believe you can stay in 4th gear up to about 167 miles an hour from memory, at least in the Diablo. But the first reference is use this 100 marker as a reference, but it depends on the conditions and that where you want to brake. So with this wind, I probably brake slightly before the 100 marker. But if you were to have a tailwind, you'd probably brake about 120 meters just to be safe. With a headwind, you could probably brake a good 90 meters. But those are just rough references. Obviously, it changes every race, so just use it as a base reference. So you'll see me brake just before the 100 marker, and you're aiming to be about 150 miles an hour for the first apex. Try to get as close to this curb as possible, but honestly, don't worry about it too much if you miss it inside, just as long as you're close to it and you're not going to be going in a straight line understeering off the track. So roughly aim for 150 miles an hour. Try stay close to the outside, do like a V shape, so like turn 1 you're going inside, and then by the time you get halfway through that, sorry not halfway, by the time you get to the exit first corner, you want to be on the outside, and then as soon as you get to the outside, you're basically already braking into the second part of the first 2 corners. And for that, I'm aiming to be about 68 miles an hour. Some laps exited second, some laps exited third. I think it's faster to exit third, but it depends how much speed you're carrying. I should have exited in third, to be honest. I think at this point, I was just experimenting what gears to use. But it's definitely faster to exit in third, I believe. I've not mentioned how I left this car either, but this car I'm revving just past 100%, so probably close to the 8k revs mark. I'll try to explain it more on the straights that you can see clearly. But yeah. Next corner, I brake, well, a very light tap of the brakes. I do it just after you see this grey barrier here. Roughly go about 93 miles an hour here. Try to stay on the inside here. You don't want to be more on the right than on the left after the first part of the corner or the S's. So roughly aim for about 93 miles an hour. And then by the time you get straightened up, you're basically already doing tap of the brakes, and you're going to be downshifted second just for engine braking, and you're roughly aiming to be about 85 miles an hour on this corner here. Not 85, sorry, 83 mile an hour. Sorry, I got that wrong. 83 mile an hour. Again, similar to the first part, as soon as you feel like this car's straighten up, you're going to be turning slightly a bit to the right just to open up this left part of the corner. But as soon as you get to about 3/4 of the way to the right, that's when I'm turning left. And again, I'll be aiming to be around 83 mile an hour. That's 80, no, it's not 83, sorry, 85, 86 mile an hour. Again, don't go all the way to the outside because you need to still have a bit of an angle for this right part of the corner. And as soon as I get just before this green part of the curb, I'm braking slightly. And I'm going to be downshifted second for rotation and engine braking. And I'm going to be roughly aiming for about 75 mile an hour. By the time I get towards the end of this turning phase, I'm going to be going on the throttle. Not for too long though. Exiting third. As soon as I get to the right here, so it's about halfway between the exit of the last corner I just shown and this entrance to the next corner, I'm going to be just lifting, and I'm going to be lifting down to about 88, 89 mile an hour, and I'm going to be balancing my throttle a bit just so that I keep my car not straight but like well balanced, that I'm not understeering and I'm not oversteering as I'm turning in. I'm not braking. I'm not letting the car brake loose, basically. I'm trying to keep stability in the car, which is why I recommend keeping a touch of throttle down. This corner, be careful on the exit as well. I was aiming to be, like I said, 88 mile an hour on the entry, but try to carry about 90 mile an hour through the corner if possible. But just be careful that you don't understeer too wide. And if you touch the inside of the curb, be careful because you can oversteer on it. So just be extremely careful of that, especially if you touch the grass as well. One more thing, sometimes you may not be able to go 100% throttle on exits immediately, especially with how much turning angle you put in. If you put too much turning angle in with 100% throttle, you will have oversteer, and it's quite difficult to catch your oversteer, especially in this car. It's probably easier on a controller compared to the wheel, just because of the way the controller is on this game. We tend to have a slightly easier time catching slides compared to wheel. Which thankfully is a thing because it would be extremely difficult to catch this car for ice. Next corner, I broke about a car length after this 100, but again, it depended on the wind. As you can see, we've got a slight headwind into this corner. With a tailwind, I would probably brake on the 100, maybe even slightly earlier. Try to have your right wheels touch this red and right part of the curb as well. If you go on this green part of the curb, at least on controller, the car will bounce a bit and it will become unstable. But if you hit this red and right part of the curb, the car will slightly grip more. It may bounce a touch, but it won't bounce too much that it becomes unstable and that it stops steering. If anything, it helps your car steer more, so that you can carry a bit more speed. Roughly aim to be about 93, 94 mile an hour on this apex here. This next corner, you see this little tiny bit of this black painted part of this right line. It's the second one that comes along. I've just gone past the first part. It's this second part that you see. I brake about there. In fact, the IBS light is just shown now, but you can brake as late as here. I think it's better to exit in third gear here. Aim to be about 66 mile an hour here. I was just experimenting. I think third gear is faster though. Here, depends on the wind, you might have to do a slight lift, and I brake just about half a car length before the end of this curb here. And I'm already down to third gear. I'm already braking at this point as well. It depends on the wind and conditions again, but on average, you want to brake about a car length or to half a car length before the end of this curb here, and you want to be braking in a straight line towards the outside here. As soon as you downshift first, turn in, aim to be about 40 mile an hour on this apex here. Since I was a bit deep, I had to go down to 35, but it helped me straighten up for the exit better. So there is two ways to do it. You can either hug the inside, carry speed, and be a bit careful on exit, but you lose time on the braking since you're braking earlier. and you'll lose a bit of time on the exit since you'll have to delay your throttle since you're carrying a bit more speed and you're putting a lot of turning input. So you just have to be a bit careful on the exit. Another way to do it is like sort of like a V shape. So you go touch deep in, making probably half a car length before the end of curb, like I'm doing now on this particular lap I'm showing you. Doing it like a V shape, so you're about half a car length off the inside this curb, so you're probably about here instead of here. And since you've got a bit deep in, you're gonna let the car turn in, and as soon as your car's angled that it's in a straight line towards its exit, you're going to be putting the power down. Maybe not 100% because there's quite a bit of power in this car, more like 80% I'd say. So basically doing a V shape. Again, aim if you're doing that, aim for about 35 miles an hour, 36 miles an hour. If you're doing it for hugging the inside way, aim for about 39 miles an hour. Just be careful on exit and steering now. Open this bit up a bit because, especially depending on the wind, it may be slightly harder to do this completely flat, especially if there's a bit of rain involved. This corner, again, depends on the wind. Brake about half a car length before the 100 marker. And aim to be about 85 or 86 miles an hour for his first apex here. You could probably do it up to 88 miles an hour. It's just you don't want to be wide on this corner. As you can see, I was with 88 miles an hour, and I felt I didn't have enough grip to stay at 88 miles an hour, which is why I went down to about 84 miles an hour. Try to have your right wheels go onto this red and white part of the curb just to open up this last part of the corner more off spoon. As soon as I got halfway round, I broke, and I'm slowed down to about 66 miles an hour here. Exiting third, be a bit careful on throttle, go 100% throttle. Sorry, I was just checking if I could skip. I can't. Here, I'm braking just after the 100 marker here, and I'm slowing down the car to about 132 or 133 miles an hour. This up, it might be slightly slower because there's a bit of rain. I just wanted to make sure I was staying on track. Yeah, I did 120 there, but you can do 132 here. Last corner, again, depends on wind and that. Brake about 90 meters, not 90, sorry, about 130 to 140 meters here. Especially since I got a touch of a tailwind, I'm braking about 135 meters here. So I'd say about a car length after 150 is where I'm braking for this last corner. Sometimes you might want to downshift first just to get that little more engine braking. In case you go deep, especially, you want to downshift first. In this case, I brake a touch early, which is why I stayed in second. Aim to be about 48 miles an hour on this first apex here. Last apex, you want to be about 55 miles an hour here, 56 miles an hour. I did slightly lessen this up because I'm going into pits, so I'm not using the whole exit here, since I want to open up the pit entry a bit. But on this corner, you'd want to be doing 55 to 56 miles an hour on average. And you want to be a touch careful on the exit, on the throttle, sorry. Just so that you don't understeer too wide and hit the Astro and ruin the last corner and understeer off, basically. And that's a lap guide here. And just to make sure, do little lift, upshift third if you're going into the pits like I am here. Now I'm going to show you the wet lap, so stay tuned for that part. Okay guys, so this is the wet part of the lap. I'm going to very quickly go through it, just so I don't want to make the video too long. So first corner, as you can see, I am off the racing line in the braking zone, and I'm going to be aiming to brake about this 150 marker here. I'm going to initially brake in a straight line, but as I get towards the first corner in the turning phase, I'm going to be moving onto the racing line just to open up the corner, and I'm going to be a car width off the racing line. So basically, I'm going to be a car width off the inside curb. And this is basically the same for most corners that I'm going to be showing you. So I brake off the racing line. As I get towards the 50 marker, I'm turning left just to open up this part of the corner more, just so I can carry a bit more speed and have a bit more angle to this first corner. And I'm going to be turning about a car width off the apex here. You can carry a bit of speed here. brake early here because you're going to be going back onto the racing line here, and you don't want to go back on the racing line and not brake, otherwise you're just going to go off here and touch this Astro, and you'll have dirty tyres for a long time as well. So brake early, just coast it. Again, be a car width off the inside the curb. As you can see, I carried 63 miles an hour. Yes, I am on the intermediate tyres here. These conditions are better for wet tyres, but because of the way my race was going, I'm on the inters here. You could probably do 65 miles an hour if you're on full wet tyres here. Be careful on the exit here. I've just paused it as I put the throttle down. You'll see me wheel spin here. So just be careful since you are on the racing line. So be about 80% throttle here, I would recommend. Here, brake similar point to where you would in a dry. Just turn in later and brake for a bit longer and downshift a second just for more engine braking. As you get to here, carry on going straight a bit and turn in a bit later so you're off the racing line. Stay to the right so you're off the racing line. Stay a car width off the racing line. Carry straight again, stay a car width off the racing line. Here, be careful on the throttle because you're on the racing line, and go as far to the right as possible for this corner. So you are off the racing line here. From this point on, you are on the racing line, so be extremely careful in throttle. I'd say you don't want to be above 50% at this point, and stay as wide as possible, because that is when you get off the racing line sooner. So at this point, you are basically about to go off the racing line, and you'll start to see me put more throttle down, since I'm now off the racing line, and there's more grip there. This corner, I broke a good couple car lengths before the 100. Initially, I'm going to be on the right just because I'm off the racing line and there's more braking performance. But similar to turn 1, you're going to be going onto the racing line. So just be careful that you don't put 100% braking as soon as you go onto the racing line, because you don't want to be sliding off. Use the normal racing line here, same here. I did lose it a bit here, but just do it the same as I'm doing here. Just don't touch the outside curb. It's more wet there and you aquaplane and slide like I'm doing now. But basically what you want to be aiming is, you want to be aiming to have your car be off the apex here again. You want to be a car width off this apex, so you can carry more speed, and since you're carrying more speed, you won't have as much of a torture going back on the power, since you are going to be off the high torque part of this ref range here. Straight to the left. This corner, turn the car with later. Stay on the inside, get off the race line, but veer off to the right quickly after, just so you're doing the actual corner off the racing line, since there's more grip there. I'm a bit touch deep on this particular lap. Cut in, see off the racing line, you can go fully on throttle. Here, there's two ways you can either carry on, go on the outside, but I don't like doing that since you're joining onto the racing line close to the outside of the track, so you're more likely going to understeer off and go on the grass. So I would recommend doing it my way. Just lift off early and just do one complete turn. Do not counter steer on anything if you can't help it. So just lift completely, do touch of throttle just to keep the car stabilised. And since you're on the inside, you're off the racing line, you can put the power down. Just keep it small steering, and yeah, just turn the car with later to the racing line. Brake similar to dry, slightly earlier. I'd say 2 car lengths at least before the 100 marker, and make sure you're braking off the racing line up to about the 50 marker. Car width off the racing line. Here, carry on, go deep, intentionally, about 2 car widths off the racing line. Just so that you can put the power down easier since you're off the racing line. On this lap you will see the overtake, but similar references. Since it's drying, I've missed the braking marker completely. In the full wet, I'm braking probably from this point here. In fact, I'm braking now. So, sorry. In the full wet, I'm braking on this marker here. So the first like light thing you see here, that is my braking reference. Oh, not my first one, sorry. So there's one here. It's the second one I'm using. In the full wet conditions, that is the one I'm using to brake. And if it is full wet, stay a car width off the racing line initially in your braking input. And similar to turn one, as you're starting to turn in, you might want to veer off to the right just to open up the corner a bit more. And you want to miss the inside because you want to carry as much speed and momentum as possible since you're going to be rejoining the racing line, and you just don't want to understeer and oversteer on that part of the track. So I missed the apex. I carry more speed than the car ahead because I missed the apex. I'm going for the move here, but basically in the full wet conditions, you're braking about 130 meters here. A bit later than you would in a dry because you're not carrying a lot of speed just due to the corner you did previously. And since you're off the racing line, you've basically got similar braking performance as you would in a dry. So you can brake a bit later here. Stay as far to the right as possible because you want to cut in to the left here, and you want to stay on the left here just so that you're off the racing line and you can put the power down nicely and carry a lot of speed and momentum for this last part of the corner here. Oh, that's a wet lap guide for this track. It's just a rough one because obviously it depends how wet the track is. It's dynamic, so it's different. So this is just a rough guidance, and that will be the end of the video. So a like and sub would be appreciated. Any questions, I'll answer in the comments below to the best of my ability. And like I said, I would recommend the Diablo since it's the best car. If not, NSX is a very good rain car. And if you just want to pick a dry car that you're comfortable in, but isn't as good as Diablo, but is easy to drive, then I'd pick the GTR 99 in my opinion. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope it's helped, and I'll see you. I will see you for either the next time trial guide, or I will post one of the races I did from the manufacturers in the last week or two. So cheers guys, and thanks for watching.